Tonight's episode, we review the genre-bending, kid-friendly Shazam, which debuted to better than expected box office. Plus, we pit it against its counterpart, because why not, Captain Marvel. And we welcome Dr. Stefan Hall, contributor to Sequart's new Mignolaverse, to help us preview the new Hellboy movie. And as always, we go spinning the racks. As I mentioned, I'm your host, Michael Dolce, Mr. Lord of the Radio himself, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. Today is a good day.
You woke
Happy
up, right?
birthday to our friend Deirdre, our mutual friend.
Friend to the show,
Brooks.
Deirdre Brooks.
Yes.
And, all right, so this is a day you've actually kind of dreaded, not as much as you will dread going to see Hellboy. But you were not excited to see Shazam when it first came out. It was not on your list of films that you really were like dying to see. You didn't enjoy the fact that every single movie right now seems to have this humorous approach. Walking out of the theater.
No. That wasn't the main reason.
Okay.
The main reason is like I don't mind humor. Humor is fine.
You're a cold man inside.
Yeah. That is true though. But not because of that.
Right.
The problem is it looked ridiculous. Like he looked ridiculous in that suit.
Yeah.
Now maybe that turned out to be kind of a gag in the film, but it kind of and I just like these movies. Like we have movies now with you have these really incredible heartfelt movies like Guardians of the Galaxy or the incredible soul crushing movie like Infinity War, right? So, and then you also have movies like on the DCEU side, Aquaman and Wonder Woman, where the stakes are incredibly high and there's a lot of there's epic battles and emotional stuff. So when which is not a problem when you drop it down to this this kid friendly these kid friendly atmospherics, that's not a problem,
right? But
it's also not that exciting.
Sure.
Up against these these high stakes franchises that are going on. Yeah. So it didn't look exciting. I knew I was going to go see it. Yeah. I left out. I held out a lot of hope that in spite of it, it not enticing me visually, that I would still enjoy it. And so I didn't go in there to hate watch it. I really didn't. Right. And I don't mind humor. I said all that to say I really don't mind humor in the movies. Yeah. I love Thor Ragnarok. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. I like humor. It unless it's in a Star Wars movie done by Rian Johnson.
Very true.
Yeah. So that was
scruffy looking nerf herder, good humor.
Yes.
Rian Johnson. Bad humor.
Yeah. Bad. I got a phone call from your mom. Bad humor in a Star Wars film. But all right. So that wasn't really the problem. Now, if you're going to ask me about how I felt about the film,
I am.
I'm sure we're going to get to that, right?
I'll preface this by saying I had different expectations than what you mentioned. This movie is sandwiched between, and sorry, Dr. Stefan Hall, who's our guest coming up next. I don't even really think about Hellboy as one of these movies because I feel like it was so rushed and into production and under-promoted at the exact same time.
Rushed into production, under-promoted, and also projecting very low.
Oh, yeah.
Projecting lower than the two Del Toro movies.
Yes.
So what was the point? Okay, never mind.
Yeah. So I
contention for that.
I really looked at Shazam before going into this movie as it was between Captain Marvel, which had a lot of hype and buzz, plus it was, Captain Marvel is the prequel, storyline to Endgame and Endgame. So I looked at, when you go to a wedding and you have your, the cocktail hour, and the cocktail hour is awesome and it's great. And you have your first course, which is usually it's a pasta dish or something. And then before they serve the main course, what they'll do is they'll give you a little palate cleanser. They'll give you like some sherbet or some lemon sorbet, something that is like you eat it and you go, this is really good. I'm excited that I got this. I'm glad I got this. I'm not planning my whole evening though around lemon sorbet. I'm planning my evening around the main course, which is Avengers Endgame. So that's what I kind of thought Shazam was going to be. It was going to be this enjoyable movie, la-di-da. What I got out of it, though, was, I got to be honest with you, I was so pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed the fact that what they were trying to do was speak to my inner 10-year-old, and not just in the become a superhero thing, because that to me was expected, because that's what all the promotion was. What I thought was very interesting about it, though, was the world building it created. And it felt to me a little bit, especially when they're wandering through the labyrinth in their quote unquote lair, and they're opening all the doors to these other worlds. I literally thought, I was like, this feels like an 80s movie to me. This feels a little bit like a Goonies, or a little bit like a Big Trouble in Little China with the crazy, designs on these characters. And it felt like something I would watch in the 1980s. The movie Explorer, it felt a little bit like Explorer, is that the movie I'm thinking about? River Phoenix, the one when they build the spaceship. I think it's called the Explorer.
Oh, Flight of the Navigator.
Not Flight. No, not. I think it's called the Explorers.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's not Flight of the Navigator.
And they build, they build the junk. They build the spaceship out of junk. And again, I'm not saying it's like that. It gave me this feeling. It gave me a feeling like I was in Temple of Doom a little bit, like I was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. There was this ancient temple, and you're learning something, and you're learning this mythology. So that to me was the most pleasant surprise about it, where now it gets upgraded from being just a palate cleanser between Captain Marvel and Endgame to being something of substance that I was not expecting.
Okay.
What about you? What did you take away from this movie?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I really did. The funny thing is, I was more compelled by the interaction between the two leads, between
Yep.
And I forget their names. Because
Billy Batson and Freddie Freeman.
Yes, Billy Batson and Freddie Freeman. I'm not familiar with the Shazam comic book.
Sure. No, I'm not too familiar, but I do remember Freddie being in there. I do remember Billy Batson, obviously. I actually more know Shazam because of, like, was it Kingdom Come, or was it Dark Knight? I think it was Kingdom Come. And they kind of have him in there, and it's a dark version of 14-year-old Billy who's gone crazy. I believe it's Kingdom Come, the graphic novel with Mark Waid, but go on.
Yeah, yes. That's the last time I saw Shazam. I was like, hey, I remember Shazam. I remember the TV show.
Right.
Because I used to watch that questionable TV show. But all right, so I really liked them. I especially like Freddie Freeman. I think he was great. He was really standout.
Yeah.
And and sympathetic. It's very important for you to have, like, sympathetic characters. And even Billy Batson, who was the lead, who was kind of disconnected from the rest of the family and reluctant to engage with them, he was still sympathetic. They managed to do that without making him obnoxious.
Yes.
When he turned into Shazam is when it kind of just becomes schlocky to me, like, but it's fine. I enjoyed it. It's another origin story, which I'm just sick to death of,
But wait, let me hang on that point for a second. One of the things I actually liked about the origin story is that they actually gave it room to develop. A lot of films these days, and this is something, again, I kind of go back to that 80s movie feeling. There was room to breathe, because in the 80s, we didn't have cell phones. We weren't short attention span theater. I mean, I'm sure our parents thought we were short attention span theater compared to the 50s or 60s, but we weren't short attention span theater, and it gave room for a story to kind of breathe and grow. I was actually really happy with the fact that, at least in this origin story, whether or not it was compelling or not, that's going to be subjective. At least it had time to develop and kind of build itself out. Even when he got his powers too, it allowed that to kind of build itself out. It wasn't this, and this. It felt to me like a nostalgic type of storytelling we haven't seen in a lot of movies these days.
If you say so.
I just did.
I know.
It's very exciting.
That's not how I felt.
But you know what I'm talking about, though, right? I mean, you understand that
I get how you feel about it.
Yeah.
But no.
That's only good for the show.
I don't disagree with your assessment of how you felt about it, but I just like, for me, it just kind of crawled, you know.
Okay, so it was too slow for you.
No, I mean, look, I've just seen it before.
Yeah.
It was great, but I've seen it before. You know, when it comes to stuff like this,
mm-hmm.
You always want it to kind of transcend a little bit into like, okay, yeah, it started off to be this origin story with this, you know, this kid and
mm-hmm.
this, you know, this young man becomes an adult. They also didn't do a lot with that, which is to me kind of like a missed opportunity, you know, because they could have done a lot of you know, for not only am I adult in a, you know, they could have done a lot of the juxtaposition of what it's like to be a child with no agency in your own world, you know, especially like being a foster kid.
Sure.
So you're a child, nobody takes you seriously. You don't have any freedom to do whatever you want, you know. And then suddenly you're an adult, and now everybody just gives you a pass, you know, because you could just go here and there and walk into anything and do anything. They kind of did it a little bit with the security guard scene where he showed up. And then, you know, suddenly it was all right for the kid to cut school in the middle of but they didn't really do a lot with it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things where I thought they were going to do certain things, or they were going to utilize the dynamic of him becoming a man, you know, and they did a gag with a strip joint, and they did the security guard gag, but they didn't really do a lot.
The beer gag was cute too.
Yeah. And which is fine. You know, it was really quick, but it was fine. So it seemed like it was afraid to be exactly all the things it could have been. And that, you know, because it's a really rigid genre. The superhero genre is very rigid because we've got so many of them now.
Yeah.
That so many of them have to, you know, to check off a box,
right?
If you want to be considered a full superhero genre. So it seemed like it was so afraid to not have a lot of these box checked off that it didn't do a lot of the other things that it could have done.
Well, that's actually funny you mentioned that, right? Because to me, the stuff that I really enjoyed about this film geared more toward the fantasy element, the backstory of the different gods and goddesses, and that, to me, was the most appealing part. The rest of it, to me, I agree with you, actually. The superhero aspect of this film was not the most enjoyable thing for me. The most enjoyable thing to me was this like mythology that goes behind everything that we're watching. The other thing I thought was really funny, and I do agree with you to an extent, of what it was afraid to be. There were certain parts to this where I'm sitting there going, my God, I would love, now I don't have an 8-year-old son, but the 8-year-old in me, be like, I would love to show this to my 8-year-old, you know, opening doors to other worlds and you know, it felt very family friendly. It felt very kid friendly. And then all of a sudden it's like, you got some really disturbing things going on. I'm like, I wouldn't show this to my 8-year-old. I'm not showing people's heads getting chopped off and
see, that's the stuff
like
I kind of liked. That it wasn't afraid to. It was like very British in that way, where it's like you got kids. It's kind of a kid friendly movie, but we're not going to shy away from the fact that sometimes things are can really suck for kids. Yeah. You know, like Harry Potter just killed off people like nobody's business. You know, and nobody was safe in those stories. Yeah. So, and even the kids, even the students. I mean, they killed off a bunch of teachers, but then, you know, those last 2 movies, they killed off a whole bunch of kids, and everyone was fine with it because it was the genre had been teasing that to you for the previous like 7 or 8 movies.
And I also think the span of 7 or 8 movies spans enough to where the kids who were watching it and growing up with it grew up with it to the point where it's not, you know, now they're teenagers. I mean, obviously it doesn't account for new readers who might not be of that age, but again, I think it, you know, it lends itself to that.
Your stakes in a story have to be high, you know? I mean, even if you don't have to be graphic, but your stakes have to be high. You can't really just kind of. I mean, it makes for better storytelling if your stakes are high. So if you walk into this thing, you might not be able to walk out of it. Is very compelling drama.
Right.
So which is fine. And I thought I enjoyed the movie. I think it's a fine movie.
Right.
It's the same as with Captain Marvel. It's only just okay. It's another one of these. That's how you got your powers. All right, I get you. This is the trial of your of this movie. Like, you got here's the guy you got to fight. Here's the bad guy you got to fight. He
was at times excellent, and at times I got
Mark
a little
Strong is always
by him though. No, I'm saying he was excellent at times, and then at times his character I kind of got a little bored with by the end. I like that. Spoilers here, guys. I like that the demon that he kept inside him was envy, because that at least was very consistent. I feel like, and we've talked about this before, we needed a cross the streams kind of moment where we knew he would do something to defeat him. Pulling envy out was actually a decent attempt at it.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like it hit a lot of it was very interested in hitting superhero tropes.
Yeah.
But it didn't hit a lot of the kid adventure tropes, like Goonies and like Stranger Things, where the kids get together and they study the enemy. Now, once, spoiler, once he brought all the other his foster brothers and sisters into the mix, and they all they all decide they all found out that they were in on it, and they knew that Shazam was Billy Batson.
Yeah.
That's a great opportunity for them to all do that, like, that classic research montage, or whatever, of what they're like. I mean, you don't have to do it exactly like that, but the kids could play a more active role in it.
Yeah.
So that when you, spoiler again, when you turn them all into superheroes at the end, that's an added bonus, you know?
Yeah.
So it missed a couple of beats that it could have hit. The story with Billy Batson and his mother is very I thought that was very well done.
Yes.
Where his mother, you don't, in the entire story, you don't know what happened to his mother.
Right.
Up until he just discovers his mom.
Yeah.
And you find out, she bailed on him, and that's kind of a heartbreaking reveal.
That's another
a thumper.
Yeah, that's another moment too where I do agree with you that they kind of missed a little, though, in the sense that they really could have played up at the beginning this idealized, and they did it. I'm not saying they didn't. I think they could have upped the effect of him, through her memory.
Over idealizing the relationship.
Right, like if they really like she was smiling and she was laughing and she was wearing this great outfit. I mean, they could have really done that up. And then when you see her version of it, maybe she's not wearing the same outfit. You know what I mean? Maybe it's like, it's got holes in it because she's got no money.
Yeah, because she's got no money.
And she's.
I mean, that would have been great for us. I think that might have been too much detail for an average audience. I mean, maybe not. But
it depends how you execute it. It depends on how you execute it. I think there's something there where you could really have played that up, and because as a parent myself, the first thing I said to my dad was, how the heck did she even not realize he's not holding her hand right now? Like, I mean, I know it happens, but look, it's Hollywood. It's done very Hollywood, know. But and so I mean, what I was talking about before about them helping him out with research and stuff like that. They're the ones who found his mom for him. So I think there's a thing where you could have done more with the fact that you could have done more with the fact that he's not engaging with the people who but they really want to be part of his life, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they could have, there could have been a lot of situations, a lot more of them reaching out and him not rebuffing them, but just not trusting it, Right. I totally understood that. And I think they did that successfully. I think like I said, they made him standoffish, but they didn't make him obnoxious about it. They didn't, yes.
I mean, and you got these two foster parents who are extremely over-idealized foster parents, right? In this mansion, in this McMansion that they live in, right?
Well, to be fair, Philadelphia, dirt cheap. Everything's dirt cheap in Philly.
Well, okay, fine. But what I'm saying is, it's credible that he would not trust them because they're
Yes.
too nice,
Yes.
after all these other like disaster situations that the foster
Right.
the child services have put him into.
Right.
So that worked.
Right.
What didn't work is as soon as he saw his mom, and as soon as he just, and I know you can't linger on this because it's a damn superhero movie. You got a whole bunch of other things you got to deal with.
I know.
But as soon as he saw his mom, he was like, "Oh, you suck," and I got to go run back to my foster family. That could have been more of a heartfelt selling point if they had done more with the foster family trying to reach out to him.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yes.
So that
agree.
you're like, okay, finally he's on the same page, and now he comes back, and he could have come. They could have done a great scene where he come like a really Superman 2 kind of situation, where the whole movie you're waiting for him to show up because General Zod and his minions are wrecking stuff, tearing everything up, and you're waiting for Christopher Reeves to just drop out of the sky and curb stomp one of these guys.
Yeah.
And when he finally does, you're like, okay, we're gonna get a show now.
Yeah.
So when Billy finally shows up, even if he gets his butt kicked because he doesn't know what he's doing, they could have had that great moment of him showing up to save his real family. Like I said, great movie, like a really good movie, good solid movie. I enjoyed it. I watched it and didn't hate that I spent my time seeing it. It just didn't reach in far enough,
right?
I think.
So,
and you got movies like you got movies like Thor Ragnarok, where it seems like they reached as far as they could to pull it, a lot of insanity and kind of zany action out of the genre. And so now we're a little spoiled, and now we're watching stuff that kind of runs home and
it's
stays
by the
simplistic.
Numbers. It's by the numbers. This one was by the numbers. Okay. Here's a couple comments from some of our faithful listeners. Brian Abraham, I thought it stayed true to the character, and for maybe 90% of the film, I really liked it. I thought the ending was cheesy, and the final battle was a little too long. I felt they left a lot to be desired with the family reunion. Felt rushed and unfulfilling. Danielle Solzman.
That's what I said.
You and Brian Abraham agreeing. Watch out.
I don't agree with him. I just said that's what I said. But see, now that we both said it, I take it back.
You love the movie. Danielle Solzman, Solzy at the Movies. Shazam is a fun superhero movie. Go check out her website and her review. Paige Bass, my 9 and 11-year-old boys liked it a lot. I think it's aiming at a younger audience than most superhero movies, which is good.
Most definitely.
Michael Mamano, it was awesome. It actually made me a little angry because between Shazam and Wonder Woman, it's clear DC knew how to make well-written, entertaining, character-faithful movies and just chose to turn out films after film that were dark, adolescent nihilism.
Yeah, well, you know what? When this hysteria passes and everybody gets over themselves a little bit and revisits, I think they're going to find a lot of the DC movies weren't bad, with the exception of Justice League, which is a blatant attempt to carbon copy the Avengers.
Yeah.
The other movies were trying to do something and they slipped up considerably.
And they failed.
No.
Batman v Superman failed miserably.
No, that's okay to you.
To me.
Well, I was trying to make a point, but okay, that's fine.
That they were trying to do something different, and it just didn't, and they slipped up. Is that the point?
We'll never know now.
Oh, I like it.
Because I'm not telling you.
Good tease. This is a comment, though, that we got on the Facebook feed that I thought was really interesting. Again, go to facebook.com/secrets of the sire. Leisha Davis, past guest. She is a working stunt woman and actress, and she loves the show. We love her. It was better than I thought it would be. Went in with low expectations. It's a good family superhero movie for young kids. It was fun, but not earth-shattering. And then I wrote back. I said, Shazam, greater than Captain Marvel, better than Captain Marvel. And she wrote, that's hard. Shazam never really took me out of the moment like Captain Marvel did due to poor music choices, which makes me really mad. I have to think about it, but gut reaction is Shazam might edge forward due to that. They are so different, though. I wanted to love Captain Marvel, but it ended up being more of an information story to get ready for Endgame. Shazam only ever called itself a feel-good family superhero movie, and it did just that. On those basis, me fail English. On that basis alone, if you're putting Captain Marvel up against Captain Marvel, Shazam. Which one do you give the edge to in terms of the experience?
What do you mean in terms of the entertainment value?
In terms of the entertainment value before you walked in versus when you walked out, and your gut feeling.
I'd say they're on par with each other.
So you're going equal to Shazam, equal to Captain Marvel.
Neither of them breaks new ground. Neither of them really, shatters the earth at all. So then after that, it's just a matter of preference, right? It's just a matter of that binary bull crap. So, and they're different stories. So like comparing them, the only reason you would compare them is probably the Captain Marvel aspect of it, and also in an attempt to flame war your way through, clickbait heaven.
Yeah.
But there's no comparison to the two of them. They're two completely different movies. They're both really tepid in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
They're both really reluctant epics.
Yeah,
is what you could call them. Like they could be epic, but they just don't reach.
Yeah.
For the epicness, they hold a lot back.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes a preference after that.
Yeah, I if I have to go gut, my head would go Shazam and my heart would go Captain Marvel, because I do think with what you said, there's more to Captain Marvel, especially being a prequel to Avengers Endgame. It's part of something larger. Shazam, though, in my head, I have to give it to Shazam because I sit there and say, this is another DC movie that defied my own expectations and that delivered something that wasn't, a horrid drudge mess that some of their previous films have been. So head goes to Shazam, heart goes to Captain Marvel. I still won't say that Captain Marvel is a great film. And obviously I'm not saying Shazam is either, but I think there's potential in the sequel to Shazam, and there will be, because it took in a very better than expected $53 million in its opening box office, is doing very well internationally. So there will be a sequel. I think you can really explore the mythology, and I think you can keep it family friendly in the next installment and explore something new within this quote unquote superhero genre. All right, chime in. Let us know what you think. We're on the YouTube channel. We're on the Facebook channel. We'll try to get on Twitter as well, too, to reply to your comments. Did you, A, like Shazam? And B, is it better, worse, or right on par with Captain Marvel, its namesake? When we come back, we will be interviewing Dr. Stefan Hall, he of the Mignolaverse Hellboy Compendium. He is going to give us a lot of insight and preview to a film that, according to many, should not even be happening. When we
Hi, everyone. This is Michael Dolce, host of the Secrets of the Sire radio show and podcast, and welcome to our Patreon launch event. To date, we've interviewed actor Kevin Bacon and rocker Chris Cornell. We spent a wacky week with a Real Housewife and played Love It or Shove It with a comic book icon. We've debated which TV shows everyone should be watching and channeled our inner force comparing Rogue One to The Force Awakens. And that's just the beginning. Become an executive producer and get an exclusive feed inside our studio before and while we air. Become a program director and receive our exclusive show outline with insider details on topics and guests hours before we go live. Or just be a fan, and for $0.25 a broadcast, we'll sing your praises on the interwebs every week. So if you like pop culture, movies, TV shows, and graphic novels, this is the Patreon page for you.
Welcome back to Secrets of the Sire. We do this every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, streaming live on the Sire Studios digital network. I'm excited to be joined by Stefan Hall, he of the wonderful new Hellboy, Mignolaverse, Hellboy and the Comics Art book that just came out, the compendium.
Yes,
giant.
It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's physical and digital, so
Oh, I love it. You've got your swag. That's what I like to see. I like to see swag presented in person. That's what I have to get a free copy myself.
Well, it's always a thrill when you see something in print, right?
Yeah.
We do so much digital, but I think the analog artifacts that are still a big part of our life are important.
Yeah, and you can hold it. I mean, it's just there's something nice about it. Kind of the record player vibe, something like that. You definitely.
And I think with comics in particular, there's a big trend towards digital comics. I know a lot of people who read comics that aren't in the United States. This is kind of an easier way for them to get comics. It's maybe a little more affordable, but a lot of those comic readers, I just don't like. They want to move you from panel to panel.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do that myself and shop around. So comics are a very interesting medium that really, I think, is still so linked to its physicality in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So talk to us about the book itself. I mean, is it a collection of the comics? Is it like an encyclopedia of Hellboy? Like what would a reader expect if they pick up the book?
I think what they're going to find when they pick up the book is that it's a bunch of chapters that everyone is orbiting around the idea of Hellboy and the comics art universe of Mignola and the various incarnations and forms that has taken. So it's Hellboy centric. And I think it's really, there's maybe one other monograph that was done about Hellboy and sort of the universe, the Mignolaverse.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is really kind of the second sort of run at that, and looking at the different forms that takes. So the different entries, if it's Hellboy or it's the BPRD.
Yeah.
And really trying to look at the ways that the character has been interpreted in a number of different formats. So my chapter is all about Hellboy video games, which one would think, oh, Hellboy, everyone wants to play Hellboy or be Hellboy.
Yeah.
So many great supporting characters, Abe Sapien, Liz Sherman, Roger, Johan, and it would be a great squad, multiplayer type game. And the ways that, unfortunately, they haven't done a very good job in bringing that universe to life. And it is such a rich universe that he has established, and letting other writers, other illustrators play in it. People do prose work in it. We have the live action films, the 2 Del Toro films, the new one comes out this week, and then the animated works as well. So a lot of great stuff.
It's funny you mentioned that too. I mean, when I think of Hellboy, I really think of that seminal, original run all the way back when Dark Horse kind of was joining in that Image launch, of creator-owned books. They kind of put their hat in the ring with Frank Miller's Sin City, and then obviously Jeff Darrow was part of it, and then Hellboy was I think the major installment actually when it comes to that universe that they tried to kind of create. Piggybacking off of kind of what Image was doing at the time. Is there another definitive run? I mean, again, I just immediately I think back to that original run. Is there a second run that you can think of that had the same kind of impact that original run did?
Of Hellboy or
Hellboy. Hellboy.
Seed of Destruction was very important in terms of establishing the character and a lot of what we know. And if you go back and read it now, Mignola really foreshadowed a lot of things with that character. Moving forward. I mean, here we are at the end of the cycle, and not to get too spoilerific, but some major characters, come back, and Hellboy's back from the dead, and Rasputin is back, and we're sort of seeing everything that he set up at the beginning has kind of really come full circle. Now, I think for readers, if you're a longtime reader or you're just getting into Hellboy, there are so many cool reveals. There are so many incorporations of mythology and folklore into Hellboy's story that it's extremely significant. So I would say pretty much every Hellboy story is important in its own way.
Yeah.
After Seed of Destruction, Almost Colossus.
Okay, yeah. I remember that one.
Is a very significant entry, I think, because it really kind of shifted some dynamics in the character. Then The Storm and the Fury really kind of took that storytelling almost to its sort of paramount.
Yeah.
In terms of what it was going, and then everyone's like, "Well, where are you going to go next?" And then we got Hellboy in Hell, which was supposed to run a lot longer than it did. I think Mignola just found himself tying up a lot of story threads more rapidly than he had anticipated. But it's always fun to go see, the Hellboy or the BPRD 46, 1947, 1948, and the way they're backfilling the stories in and creating a richer sense of continuity.
Yeah. Now, what is it about the Hellboy character in the world that Mignola created that makes it appealing to reboot the character as a movie? I mean, what do you think is the catch of Hellboy to want to not only reboot the character in a movie, but essentially Del Toro's movies were seen as and they're held to very high esteem within the comics community. So there has to be something about Hellboy himself that makes studios think, yeah, we want to take another shot at this. What do you think that is? That it factor of it is?
Well, when the first couple Hellboy movies came out, and even I would even put the animated ones in because they're sort of around the same time. The superhero movie really hadn't shown up yet.
Yeah.
And so this was still sort of a underdog type of foray to this particular genre. We had superhero movies all along.
Yeah. Sure.
They were really more cultish. And Hellboy, if you think of something like Mystery Men, which I think is a really great superhero movie, but it's an oddball one, right? It's not Batman and it's not Captain America and things like that.
Yeah.
So Hellboy had a bright world. People didn't have a lot of preconceived notions about it. So I think that those Del Toro movies actually did bring a little bit of readership into the book.
Sure.
And Del Toro already had a good reputation for doing kind of horror-esque sort of things. He definitely had his own vision for the character. Now I think with the new film coming out, we're 11 years into the MCU.
Right.
It's like, we get 3, 4, 5 major superhero movies a year, and it's a good time to sort of revisit this character. He's got name brand recognition.
Yep.
And I'm very interested in the way that they've decided to make this film an R.
Oh, see, that was my next question. Yeah, that was my next question. What do you think the impact of the R-rated is going to have in terms of the storytelling?
Well, I think it's going to attract maybe that teenage audience that wants to see an R-rated movie. When you couldn't quite get an R-rated movie. So, but I was musing on the one of the Hellboy forums. Kind of, is this a Deadpool effect, right? So are we seeing... Of
course, and Logan.
And Logan, right? So we're seeing there's a mature audience for R-rated superhero movies. And this Hellboy seems a little more irreverent. He seems to want to throw some quips around more. Hellboy's always had that kind of that humor vein to him, built into the character.
Yeah.
But this one seems a little more salty, right? So that's why I was thinking more Deadpool than Logan.
Yeah.
Although the sizzle reel just got released a couple days ago. So it's our last taste before we see the whole film. So I'm going to be very interested to see what this particular vision is.
Yeah, unfortunately, the buzz for the movie is actually not very good right now, at least what we're hearing. And I wonder if it's part marketing, if it's part, the sacrilege of taking on the Del Toro legacy, especially now that he's an Oscar winner, too. Forget the fact that he's also just a renowned creator of many different genre films, including like Pan's Labyrinth and things like that. Do you think people are in for a good surprise? Do you think it's going to actually, do well and kickstart another Hellboy franchise? Or I know we're kind of hoping, but what's your opinion on the box office?
It's kind of interesting. My local movie theater is deciding not to show it in IMAX. I'm a little surprised about that.
Interesting. Okay.
I'd have to go to a neighboring town to see an IMAX release. They decided to keep Shazam. And this was before Shazam's big, surprise box office.
Right.
And so I think they're looking and they're going, Shazam, PG, 13, Hellboy R, and it's a different sort of thing. What I would say to people who are familiar with the character, either through the Del Toro films or the animated films or the comic books, is go into it with an open mind. Mignola has been very, very clear the whole way that the narrative universes for each media property are very distinct. Yes, these all, the comic book is sort of the genesis.
Sure.
Really look at these comics and this prose and the Del Toro films, the animated films, this new film as really separate things.
Okay.
So invariably the comparisons I think are going to happen.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people really respect the Del Toro films because he did bring his vision along with Mignola's vision and kind of gave us a new iteration or new interpretation of the character. I would personally love, I think a lot of people would love to see Del Toro finish the trilogy because he set it up. Now, what I would suggest to anyone listening to this, including Dark Horse and Mignola and Del Toro, is crank that third script out and take a page from the Gospel of Joss Whedon. Let us see it as a comic book.
It's a good idea.
Whedon has continued Buffy and Angel and Firefly in comic book form. So at least give us the storyboards, crank it as a full thing. Let us see what your vision was going to look like. I think that would be an interesting way to kind of keep the franchise going.
I think that's a really smart idea. What are your predictions for the story and the characters? I know, we're seeing some characters we hadn't kind of seen in the movies yet. Jumping into this film, what characters should we be on the lookout for in this film?
Well, let's see. We've got Alice, who is the love interest in the comic books, but she's been turned into an agent, I guess, a BPRD. Maybe, it's tough to say, but she seems to sort of been recast a little bit. And Harbor had an interesting quote. Something about, Hellboy's love life, he's kind of like this, half demon thing. And so it would take a really supernatural sort of lady to be able to handle his love.
Sure.
And I thought, wow, that's an odd, but I think it says something about the way he's looking at the character versus the way that Perlman has done, for example. So, that's an interesting thing.
Now, Daniel Dae Kim was cast now in this film, and there was a big controversy in terms of his character. What should the audience know about his character? The controversy obviously was the whitewashing of the original character, and then they ended up recasting and Daniel Dae Kim, who's very famous from Lost and Hawaii 5-0, kind of assumed it. So. Who's he playing, and what's the significance of having an Asian American actually representing this character?
Right. Well, so he's Ben Damio, and in the BPRD we find out that Damio was involved in an op, and he's ex-Special Forces, and gets damaged by a jaguar sort of deity. Or an incarnation, an avatar maybe, and so he's sort of a whir creature of sorts. I think in the film, he's going to be much more of a whir jaguar.
Okay.
The sort of mystical type of thing that he was, and we really saw him mostly as this sort of tortured human in the book.
Yeah.
Right. So they've made him a more magical, supernatural character. Now I've got to laugh a little bit about the controversy, just slightly. Yes, they originally cast an Anglo actor in this role, and Daniel Day Kim. I think he's a phenomenal actor. He's been great in everything. I think it's sad that he departed Hawaii Five-0 kind of the way he did. But we've got a Korean playing a Japanese descended character, so we're still not getting, we're Asian peoples together. We'll get it all. We'll get it all sorted out at one point in the future, and everyone will be play nice. But my sense from the teasers and the trailers and the sizzle reel is that they want to show us a more wondrous, supernatural world. So we're going to get the giants. We're going to get the wild hunt. We're going to get the fairy realm ostensibly in there somehow, and make it seem like that this is, the threats that are there are much more intruding on the real world than sort of the clandestine way it was, at least in the Del Toro film.
Sure. It sounds more appealing than the marketing they've done for the film. Your description of it.
Well, they again, they're talking to the wrong people, probably.
Yeah.
Right? They should have had some focus groups and done some stuff with the fans. And this, it's the age we live in.
Yeah.
When the first Del Toro films came out, the internet, it was still, it was like a young teen. It was like a tween at that. Now the internet's grown up, and it's an unruly teenager, right? And people get on and start. Even when the first, the casting decision, announced, and they, not going with Perlman, and this huge kerfuffle over everything, and sometimes fans just need to trust the creators, and let it come to its germination. The wonderful thing is, if you don't like the movie, go watch the movies that you like, or go read the graphic novels that you like, or write your own Hellboy story. Have that fan fiction out there on the internet. I can't say I've really read much Hellboy fan fiction. Come to think of it, I'm sure that it's out there.
I'm sure it is.
I'm
sure it is.
I'm going to type it in, and I'm going to find some, crazy thing that someone has dreamed up. But there's some really great stories, I think, told in the world. We care about the characters. When Roger died, and everybody, they were so heartbroken, because you really came to be invested with that character. And how many creators can say, they've got that type of reaction from a fan base? I think that's a real testament to the quality of writing. A lot of, I was attracted to both Mignola's art, because it was very different. So the writing of the story. And as other artists were brought in, the thing that kind of, because some of them I like better than others, but it was really the writing that kept bringing me back over and over and over again. So probably once I could get a copy of it, I'm going to read the script of the film and see, if I was just reading the script, what would I have envisioned? Am I seeing what I'm sort of seeing the way that they put it together? And that's another interesting thing for fans to consider, I think.
So real quick, when we were lucky to have you on the show and
thank you so
for the show, you were hailed as a Hellboy expert and a scholar of video games. What is a scholar of video games, and how do we become one?
Well, it's you can see on the wall behind me. This is like my Atari collection back there. Video games is one of those things. It's because of the nature of the medium, much like comics. we recycled early comics. They're printed on pulp. They're sort of falling apart.
Yeah.
So you kind of become part archaeologist, part historian, and as an emergent medium, a lot of video game design programs at the university level came out of either computer science or mathematics departments.
Okay.
Now, since about the year 2000, we're starting to see more standalone. The one I teach in at High Point University was created in 2008. So we're kind of established, I guess, in the sense that we've been around for 11 years now. Kids, everyone wants to play games. They want to make games.
Yep.
I would say, there's a lot of great software out there that you can learn to make games. There's a lot of great stuff that you can learn to draw and script comic books as well. And it's really a very collaborative, both media are very collaborative. So
very cool.
It's a fascinating field to try to capture. As things age out, I mean, unless you have an Atari 2600, you can't play these games. But if you go into, the great libraries there in Europe, and you can read off a Gutenberg Bible and still read it, right? So
that's true.
I'm hoping in 500 years from now, people will pull off Secret Construction, a nice, lovely library edition, and read it.
They'll just probably complain about the graphics at that point.
Yeah, probably. They'll be like, "Oh, this flip pages." Now we just beam it into our frontal lobes and live the whole thing.
Stefan, tell folks where they can get the Mignolaverse, Hellboy, and the comics art book, and tell us where they can find you online.
Okay, you can get the book on Amazon.com. It's published in conjunction with Sequart. And get the print version or the Kindle edition. And if you want to find me online, I am Grog the Slayer on Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam. And you can also find me at S Hall, that's shall. You shall remember my email address, shall@highpoint.edu.
Very cool. Stefan Hall, thank you so much. When we come back, we go spinning the racks. Welcome back to Secrets of the Sire. We do this every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Sire Studios digital network. That includes, in addition to downloading this as a podcast on iTunes and iHeartRadio and Google Play, it also means that you can see us on youtube.com/Secrets of the Sire, facebook.com/Secrets of the Sire, and patreon.com/Secrets of the Sire. As always, I want to give a shout out to our patrons, Craig Caruso, Einar Peterson, Matt Byer, Ashley Haikai, Omar Morales, program director Stephanie Dolce, and as always, our Uber fan, Christina Dolce. I want to thank our guest, Stefan Hall. Tremendous insight into the Hellboy Mignola universe. Go check out Sequart's. I guess it's Sequart, is what he said. But and find out how you can become a scholar of video games. That's the thing that I think is the most amazing thing. He teaches at, I think it's High Mount or High Point University, and he is a scholar of video games. It's pretty impressive. All right, we do this every week. We go spinning the racks.
Spin the rack, spin that rack.
Avengers Endgame breaks box office pre-sales record in only 6 hours. Just like that, snap, Fandango's box office record was broken. Avengers Endgame managed to rack up more first-day pre-sales than any other film in the company's history, beating previous chart topper Star Wars: The Force Awakens. The new list of pre-sale winners from Fandango is Avengers Endgame, then Force Awakens, then Last Jedi, then Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, and Avengers: Infinity War. Do you notice a bit of a trend? We've never seen anything like it. It's truly a groundbreaking accomplishment, as fans simply cannot wait to see how this epic saga comes to a close. Not all things went smoothly, of course. Fandango, was actually out. The AMC Theater ticket sales page also reportedly failed, and Regal Cinemas and Atom Tickets had issues as well. So it basically crashed the website. Hassan, are you surprised at all that it is the top-selling pre-sale of all time?
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit, right? This is not even like news. Did you get your tickets?
Yes, I have my tickets.
I also got my tickets. So we...
that's a difference from last night.
Yes. Well, it's... look,
so you took my advice and you went to get a ticket because you were like callous about it last night. You were like, I'll find a seat. That's just nonsense.
I see movies at odd times, though, because this great job that we have allows us to do that. And so my dad and I will go at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, the day before.
You still got your ticket. But why did you pre-advance buy a ticket? You were like, I just have to show up. All I have to do is show up, and those motherfuckers will let me in. Bing,
bing. Now we're explicit. See, every time I have to do this, I have to choose this or that. All right,
we gotta cut things anyway.
We brought up Avengers Endgame because we are going to be doing an awesome Avengers Endgame event that is related to this podcast and to our Wednesday show, and it's going to be related to Free Comic Book Day, all rolled up in one. We're going to announce that next week. Again, I want to thank my guest, Stefan Hall. Go check out Sequart's Mignolaverse. It's on Amazon. Go check out Shazam. It's better than Captain Marvel. I just have to say it. I have to say it.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's better.
It's not better.
Slightly.
It's not better at all.
Slightly better.
It's a different movie. Anything is better. That's like saying that vanilla is better than chocolate. That's ridiculous. It's just a preference. It's just a preference.
Actually, they just actually had a poll. Vanilla is still the highest rated ice cream flavor. All right,
it's a preference thing. So you're a dunk off.
Next week, whether you wanted it or not, Hellboy returns, and we give you the full skinny on the latest installment of the Mignola film franchise.
Secrets of the Saga.